Hi, I'm Daniel and this is Movie Wrap News. And do you remember how last week I was stating that there was no good movie news? Well, the film gods appear to have taken that as a personal challenge and have dropped a ton of the stuff on my lap. Some interesting, most mad as a box of frogs. I'll explain. But first, I have a dream that one day I'm going to be able to do one of these without mentioning the MCU. But today is not that day. We begin with Black Panther, which this week was not only revealed to be the biggest superhero film in US history, comfortably entering the $1 billion club, $1.25 billion at the box office at time of recording, but was this week dethroned from its record-breaking 5 weeks at the top of the US box office by Pacific Rim Uprising of all things. Although this is more down to natural erosion than losing to a film which managed a mere $30 million on its opening weekend. Speaking of money and superheroes, Deadpool II is, according to Money People, tracking for a lower opening weekend gross than the original, 100 million versus 130 million. And I think this could be right, as I've detected less of an online buzz about this film. I mean, it's still going to make tons of money, but not all of the money. But as the budget is only about 60 million, I wouldn't worry too much about the fate of Deadpool 3, Dead Hard with a Vengeance. On the other hand, you should be very worried about the fate of Independence Day 3, and that it seems to have met a very quiet one. At the time of Independence Day 2, according to TV tropes, the original plan was that there were going to be 2 sequels released with a year difference, but in the end the studio only greenlit 1 movie. And it's staying that way, with the producer this week stating they had no plans on doing another one. And who could blame them? With less than 400 million at the global box office and 32 on Metacritic, it's not like the sequel is beloved. Unlike the soundtrack for The Greatest Showman, a completely mediocre film that is still in UK cinemas despite being released on Boxing Day. Its soundtrack has now been in charge of the albums listing for 11 consecutive weeks, which ties the title for the longest unbroken stay at the peak of the chart. According to the official charts company, 11 weeks in a row at number 1 remains the most impressive stretch any artist has ever managed. Adele first set the record back when her global phenomenon of an album 21 debuted. And there's no sign that this album is going anywhere for the time being, meaning that by the time you watch this, the most popular album of all time in the UK is the soundtrack to a film with 48 on Metacritic and just over 400 million at the global box office. This film is the chewing gum stuck to the bottom of your shoes of film. And as we go further down the rabbit hole, we find out that Uwe Boll has emerged from whatever rock he's been hiding under to pick a fight with Dwayne Johnson's film Rampage. Over on his Twitter account, Boll has taken to throwing shade at the upcoming video game adaptation because as far as he's concerned, Warner Bros. Has no right to release a film called Rampage and is insistent that a name change be applied. His reasoning? Boll is arguing that it's unfair because he already used the title for his 2009 mass murder film, which was followed by 2 sequels in 2014 and 2016, which also used the name. According to Boll, his poor indie films will be squashed because of this new film. He says that it confuses the audience. It couldn't be because Boll is considered by many to be the worst filmmaker of all time. All I can say, it's going to be really funny to see Boll try and explain this to a judge, which may happen as he's claiming he's suing Warner Bros. But given that he's got a habit of literally getting into boxing matches with people who criticise him, I hope this gets sorted in the ring. So I'll bring the popcorn and point out that it was my bosses at Heaven's Fire Film who wanted me to mention this story, Mr. Boll. Addresses can be provided if you promise to go back under your rock and stay there, or take on Mr. Johnson in the ring. Speaking of things going away forever, Sci-Fi has decided that its upcoming TV movie Sharknado VI will serve as the final instalment in the long-running B-movie franchise. Few people really saw the massive success of the Sharknado franchise coming. The first film's objective, crazy premise earned itself some early online attention, but Sci-Fi had made films just as crazy before that hadn't managed to blow up. Yet thanks to some smart marketing and a heavy social media presence, Sharknado became a small-scale event, being watched by nearly 1.4 million people, a good number for basic cable. Sharknado VI will pick up from the cliffhanger ending of Sharknado V, in which Finn is left walking alone on an Earth devastated by Sharknadoes, seemingly doomed to never see his family again. That is until Dolph Lundgren shows up, revealing himself to be the grown-up version of Finn's son Gil, offering his dad a chance to travel through time to set things right. Finn will be tasked with stopping the very first Sharknado from happening, thus rewriting history to save both his loved ones and the planet he calls home. In addition to Ian Ziering, Sharknado vets Tara Reid, Cassie Skerber and Vivica A. Fox are all confirmed to return for the final sequel. Director Anthony C. Ferranti, director of all prior Sharknado films, will also return to helm Sharknado VI. As usual, fans should also expect a myriad of celebrity cameos. Now, while Sharknado VI's time-travelling premise does seem designed to wrap the franchise up for good, history is littered with planned final installments that didn't end up being the end. If Sharknado VI does well, don't be surprised to see Sharknado VII materialise sooner or later. Now, heading back to the inescapable black hole of superhero films, we find Fox has pushed the release date for the latest installment of its banner XMen series, which features a cavalcade of stars including Michael Fassbender, Jennifer Lawrence and James McAvoy. from November 2nd, 2018 to February 14th, 2019. The mutant film will now undergo some reshoots as it heads towards a new operating date, sources tell The Hollywood Reporter. The movie was in post-production, and insiders say it had come in slightly under budget, but sources say the third act will need some reworking, thus reshoots. Now, the extent of the new material isn't known, as Simon Kinberg, the X-Men franchise writer-producer, who's making his directorial debut with Dark Phoenix, has yet to pen anything. But one insider expects the shoot to cost under $10 million and to take place in late summer. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad sign for the feature. Some amount of reshoots are slotted for most big budget productions of this type, and it's nowhere near as bad as the New Mutants reshoots, which are rumoured to basically be reshooting the entire thing. There are also rumours that Sophie Turner's hectic Game of Thrones schedule isn't really helping matters. And finally, are you fed up with not being able to watch films with your beloved dog? Well, cinemas in the UK have you covered, as long as you want to watch Isle of Dogs. We now have dog-friendly screenings in the UK. As long as your dog is well behaved, it is welcome to come in and sit down and watch a film in a cinema with other dogs and humans, and I genuinely have no idea what to make of this. Do they buy treats? How much is a doggy ticket? What happens if Fido leaves a present? Do they have to sterilise the screening afterwards to ensure that people with dog allergies can come in? What happens if the dogs shed? Cinemas run on tight turnarounds, and I don't see this as anything other than a gimmick that is making a lot of poorly paid people's jobs a little bit harder. But that's this week's Movie Wrap News. Did I miss your favourite story? And would you get in the ring with a film director? Comment below, let me know. I'm Daniel. This has been Movie Wrap News. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe.